I'm very excited to speak because I do think that Russian experience resembles what is happening now, and Russia is an example that went very badly. Not probably the worst example, there were worse ones, but like very bad one. And yeah, a few words about myself. I was born in Moscow in 1991, so a few months before the Soviet Union collapsed. So I don't remember Soviet Union, but I remember Russia of 90s that was kind of becoming more and more liberal and free, while it was unsafe place to live because it was very transitional. And I graduated from the university in Moscow, and...
From the Mirandas. Nice.
Hi everyone!
Ready?
Yes.
Hey!
Hello.
Hey! We're just starting.
Hello.
So yeah, I graduated from the university in Moscow in 2013, and I worked like maybe a year and a half there, and then we immigrated. So we immigrated because of the first invasion in Ukraine, and there were like a lot of other reasons why we wanted to leave Russia by then. Like both me and my husband were like talking, and we got married right after university, so we were together since then. But like we were both talking about that we want to leave Russia. We didn't like what was happening. But probably this like Ukraine invasion just accelerated it, because on one hand it was atrocious abuse of international law, but on the other hand also like Russian economy suffered a lot from that. Like ruble dropped twice, and I was like, as somebody who worked in import back then, I felt it very well. And yeah. So we thought it's like a country with very fragile economy and very imperialistic ambitions, and we did not want to be there. So we left. We lived in Europe, in Lithuania for 7 years, and I'm 3.5 years here. Yeah, so what I wanted to talk to you today about is like experiences in Russia and how the situation developed there. How it was different from other post-Soviet countries that went the liberal way versus like Russia that tried to go liberal way but then went a proper authoritarian way. And I think the thing that I did not realize when I was in Russia of 2000s, Putin came to power in 2000. So he was appointed by Yeltsin, who was president in 1999, because Yeltsin resigned before the end of his term. He had very bad health condition, and he appointed Putin as a like temporary president, and then he was elected in 2000s. And 2000s, like when the war in Ukraine actually started in 2022, I started to learn like how the fuck it was possible, like what happened, and I was terrified to see how fast Putin consolidated all the power just in a few years. Like everything was like, and it felt so free for me, because I remember like early 2000s was my middle school years, then high school, like end of 2000s I entered the university, and I was kind of like, I was young, I was a kid, but I was like, I knew what was happening, right? Like I felt it, and it felt super free country. It felt as if it's like some kind of temporary thing. It will end soon. We will have like democratic future, etc., etc. And the moment when I thought this, there was no way out already. So, and it was like kind of terrifying for me to learn. But yeah, I want to give you like some historical overview of what happened. So yeah, like Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. Yeltsin was elected as president, and he was liberal. He wanted democracy. He was praised as like the leader of people who wanted to be free, who did not like the Soviet Union and stuff. And there was a lot of excitement around him in the beginning of his term. He was still a product of the system, of post-Soviet system, so like the system that he set up was still like very much concentrated around executive power, but it was a huge shift from what happened during Soviet era. And it became very free. Like, for instance, I remember I listened to people who worked in the government then, and they basically said that they were able to say whatever shit stuff about Yeltsin and or about whoever. And media, like television, constantly talked about Yeltsin. And then in the end of his term, it became worse because he had like very bad health. And then he started drinking. He had drinking problems, especially when the Chechen war started. It seems it was like very bad for him mentally. And he became mentally unstable, etc. And they were just making fun of him on television. And given that it was a country that was a closed Soviet state, like less than 10 years ago, it was something unimaginable, right? But then, in the end of Yeltsin's era, people felt much less excitement than they felt in the beginning, because there were a few things that people did not like. So one was this Chechen war where like a lot of people died, and a lot of Russians thought that it was useless, and they were blaming Yeltsin for that. So they wanted security, they felt unsafe, right? The second one was economic, because there were a lot of liberal reforms done in 90s. And the economy changed dramatically, like from this planned economy of Soviet Union to like kind of market economy that was building up. But I think that and there were like very talented people who did it within the government. So hence they allowed Putin to benefit from it in the first years of his reign. But I think what they did wrong, they promised people very quick change, which was impossible. And then people believed it, and when they did not get it, they got frustrated. And this is actually what I see a lot here with this post-COVID inflation reduction, right? I personally, and you can argue with me, like maybe I'm wrong, but from what I see, I do believe that Biden administration did quite a good job in tempering inflation, because if we look like globally, like versus, for instance, Europe, US is better now in terms of inflation, but people want this quick change, right? And people constantly ask like why the price, like if you temper inflation, why prices are so much higher than they were before COVID. And that's true, they are, but then there is no visible way to get them back to that level in such short period of time. But on long run, and this is, I think it's like a constant problem with the economy, when changes, they don't happen quickly as we want them to happen. And then when we have these short presidential terms, like 4 years, usually one president does the reform and people suffer at that point. But then the second president will benefit from that reform, but people will think that it's his doing, right? While the first one will be blamed for it. And yeah, and that's what was happened in Russia. So people did not like economy because, yeah, and people, it was very unlike what is in the US right now, because really like more than half of the people lived below the poverty line. And it's still so it's normal for Russia. But yeah, it was really like some people did not get their salaries for like half a year, for instance, those who worked on like some big plants or something. And they had nothing to feed their kids, and it was obvious, and they wanted someone to blame for it. Then there were also like some not so nice stories about oligarchs buying like some huge state enterprises, and it was true. So there were like constantly oligarch lobbyists in Yeltsin's office, and that's what like media was talking about, everyone was talking about. So it was very vocal, but it still happened. But then people were so pissed off of it because there were information about it. A lot of information. And if you look at scale, actually, when Russia did privatization, like from state-owned to privately owned, majority of it was like normally sold at market, right? But some portion of it was very obviously like unfairly sold for like very low price to guys who are like billionaires right now in this Forbes list, etc. And information access, it's like something that existed in Russia of 90s, doesn't exist anymore. And it's something that exists here to the extreme sometimes. Like I'm fond of like free information. I love it. I do think that people shall know what's happening, and that's the only way we solve the problems, when we know about them, right? But I can tell you how like somebody who came from from Russia and then from Europe, Europe is somewhere in the middle because they have freedom of information, but they have, I think, much more state-owned media versus privately owned media. And state-owned media, they don't have to be for profit. So they don't always need to create scandal, while private media does. And then when we came to the US with my husband, we were shocked of how much scandal there is. Because like, for instance, when you come to the US as a foreigner, if you like listen to media, you are constantly feeling that like you can be shot on the street or like something like that. While like, for instance, we lived in Lithuania. When you live in Lithuania, you feel that it's like a tiny country, Baltic Sea, like somewhere in the outskirts of Europe. Nobody cares about it. It's the safest place in the world. Blah blah blah. And before coming here, we were just like checking statistics, violent crime statistics, Lithuania versus Texas. We were shocked that Texas is lower crime rate per capita than Lithuania. And
Wow.
we were like, what?
Wow.
Fuck. And yeah, like if you look at like firearms and it like it's higher. Like obviously, like Lithuania doesn't have people don't have arms there. It's actually quite. It's easier than in other European countries to get a license for a gun, but still like very hard. My husband was interested, so like he and in Lithuania he decided it's not worth it. But yeah, like it's something that you can't imagine because like not everybody checks statistics. You usually like listen to what media says, and you and I do the same. Like you have this emotional reaction to it, right? And probably when there is so much media, you feel that the things are worse than they are in reality sometimes. Because yeah, like we came here, like I think I'm a bit like how to say, immune to it. Like I try to distance myself like from media and consume like little news. But my husband was really traumatized when we came here. Like first 3 months, he was just like, "Where did we come?" Like it's like he was constantly like every day was hearing like some like atrocious news he read somewhere. Like, stop doing it. Like, okay, you can do it for yourself. Stop doing it for me. Like but yeah, like then he calmed down. Now it's alright. But yeah, it's something that shocks people who are not from here. But yeah,
It's traumatizing.
yeah.
Yeah. No, and for people here too.
Yeah,
I think,
especially what we're dealing with now. Every day it's just like, it's
Oh, yeah.
crazier and
Yeah.
crazier and crazier.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
What caused the Soviet Union to collapse? Wasn't it a bunch of protests like we're seeing now, or?
No, I don't think so. Soviet Union had very structural problems. So one thing like economy, plan economy is not a good economy because the government doesn't know what the market needs. Market knows. and then they were regulating prices, but then price regulation leads to like either overproduction of something or underproduction. There were huge deficits, right? But then there was also significant oil crisis in the end of 70s that Russia's economy is still very much oil related, but and Soviet Union was the same. They kind of expected it will be high prices forever, and when there was a period, a prolonged period of low prices, that also undermined the economy. Then there were wars, the Afghanistan wars that also did their impact. And then another thing is that Soviet Union was trying to be a friend of everyone who is pro-Soviet. So they were sending a lot of money to other countries, right, that they wanted to convert to Soviet bloc. And the problem is that they still had the same bad plan economy, so they were not sustainable, and then Soviet Union was constantly doubting them. So I think these were main reasons, but then also probably 80s were kind of free time. For instance, my parents were young at that time, and my father has a lot of Soviet nostalgia right now, because for him Soviet Union was the Soviet Union of 80s, where it was free already, but very defined future, a lot of social support, free education, free medicine, free everything, free apartments for those who worked X amount of time. And yeah, he has a lot of, he still thinks that everything was damaged in 90s and hence it's bad now. I don't think so, but yeah. So, and I wanted, what I wanted to talk to you about today is beginning of Putin, because this is something that haunts me right now. So how fast it happened. Because I told you all this discontent that people felt after in the end of the 90s with Yeltsin, and then he stepped back, but then when he was considering to step back for quite a while, and people were expecting him to step back, and he and his family, because he was not fully functional then, so his daughter was and her husband were very much involved in choosing this successor, and there were a few people who qualified, who they were considering, but Putin was a former KGB.
That's what's so scary about him.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's what part of people wanted, because they wanted somebody who come and provide them security because of the war, and because they were scared of terrorism and stuff. And actually, when Yeltsin started considering Putin in the summer of 1999, and at that time he had a very low rating, 31%. I checked it yesterday, 31% in August 1999. But then happened a very interesting coincidence that supported Putin's rating a lot. And there is a lot of conspiracy around that. There were terrorist acts. There were 2 houses in Moscow and a few houses in different other cities around Russia in very concentrated terrorist acts in September 1999. And these terrorist acts, the responsibility was taken by Chechen terrorists, And that's when people got really scared, because they were like boom, 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 one by one, like in 1 week, I think, or maybe 2 weeks, there were like a number of those explosions. And people wanted more and more security. And hence, Putin, as former KGB, was the one who can come. And he said it, like, I will come and I will guarantee. He said, I will find all these terrorists and kill them in the closets. That was the quote.
Wow.
And people bought it. So people wanted security. They were scared. And I can tell you myself, like 1999, I was 8 years old. And I had an elder cousin who was like high school, maybe 15 then. And I remember after those bombings, he and his families come to visit us. And he was telling a story that his classmates' family was living in one of those houses where explosion was. He basically said that the girl was out that evening. She was partying with her friends, but her family was at home. Her parents were at home, and she lost both of her parents that day. And yeah, like, and I was 8. I am listening to this story, and it's like, very fast it becomes so close to you. You become scared that it may happen. You may be at home and you may die. And this is and there are terrorists, and like we are at war with those, etc. So yeah. In the end of 1999, Putin had a rating of 80%, 31 to 80 in a few months. Just because of that. And now there is a lot of conspiracy about FSB planning those, and that it was like actually planned by Putin. There is some evidence. I won't say, like, I won't give my tooth that that's true. But even if it's not, it was very, very a timely coincidence for him. And basically, when Putin came, so he was elected as president in 2000s, and in year 2000, sorry. What he did very fast, he got an agreement with those Chechen government and stopped the active warfare. So, and he did it very fast. People praised him for that. But the way he did it, he basically made an agreement with Kadyrov, who is the head of this, that Putin does not meddle with what's happening there. Kadyrov has the full power there. And it's like, it's insane what's happening there. Like, people are killed, tortured, etc. There is no human rights there. Like, women abuse is just unspeakable there. But basically, by making this agreement, he stopped the active warfare. However, the war did not stop. Like, there was war till 2009, I think. But it was like this local conflicts rather than active warfare. And Russia stopped like sending people arms there. So yeah. But do you think terrorist attacks ended on that? Not really. Like 2003, there were bombings in Moscow metro. 2007, I think, or 8. 2009, etc. Like, I remember 2003, I was in high school, and I had to use subway to commute. And I was going like to school in the morning, and I was lucky to be late to school that day, because when I came to the subway station, it was closed because there was a terrorist attack actually between the stop where my school was and the next stop. And they closed the whole line because of that. And actually, a few of my classmates told me later that they may have been on the same train where like the explosion happened, because they heard the explosion from the station. And yeah, and it's and then I was in the university maybe like 2008. There were another bombings in Moscow metro, and also it was quite close. Like you have this feeling that it may happen. Like, and it's like not high chance that you will be in this particular train in this particular time. But it's not safe. So yeah, and I like some people say that when you trade freedom for security, you get neither freedom nor security, and that's like what Russian got. But then also, yeah, like I wanted to talk about consolidation of power, like how fast it happened. And actually, like what's happening here, like we recently was talking to my husband. We said that like looking at Trump, Putin was a loser. Like he was a very unsuccessful tyrant. Like he was doing like everything very slowly versus like what's happening here, because he had to pretend liberal. People wanted security. People wanted economy. But still, they did not want to go back to the Soviet Union. They wanted freedom. So Putin played liberal like for quite a while, and hence I said that I was not seeing it at all. But then basically, I have some timeline here. So, one sec.
Didn't the same thing happen in Hungary too? I heard bad.
Yeah, I don't have like the time for Hungary, but yeah, like Hungary is very bad right now. It's true. It's like proper authoritarian, and they block like all the European, for instance, stuff for supporting Ukraine because they are like Putin friend, best friend. But yeah, so 2000s, he became a president, and first thing that he did is he created 7 federal districts that were overseen by his appointees. So Russia is a federation, the same as the US, and we have those like oblasts, which are like states, and each oblast has their governor. So the governors are elected, but what Putin did, he put this like 7 regions over those oblasts. One region included like a number of those oblasts, and he put somebody who is appointed by him personally, who will oversee the region, and then governors lost like significant part of their power because those people became more important. And it's almost like the first that he did. Then early 2000s reforms to judicial systems and appointments. So this already happened during the previous Trump term here, where they personally appoint loyal judges. So judicial system is very important because this is something that protects. So they want no more of this. Yeah, and then another thing that he did the same year he started was restructuring of FSB and consolidating the control over them. So enforcement is something that they need.
What's the FSB?
FSB is it's kind of FBR here.
FBI, kind of like
FBI.
Former MVD.
Yeah. Yeah, so and like KGB, like basically KGB just reformed into FSB.
Nazis, basically.
And that's what Kash Patel is doing. He fired all of them, and then
yeah. So they do want loyal people there. But for Putin, it was easier because he was from this system. He knew the people. He knew how it works. And he made sure that this FSB now is a proper successor of KGB. It was like it was going into like more liberal like organ during 90s, but yeah, like Putin basically undid it the first year. Then in 2003, so the third year of Putin. United Russia, this is pro-Putin party, won majority in the government. So first 2 years of Putin, he did not have majority in the parliament, so parliament was kind of blocking some of his decisions. But people were content with him, so they did elect, and at that time elections were kind of free. After that, not really. After that, like everything was played, but then people really elected United Russia because the economy was starting to grow on all these liberal reforms. Putin did nothing for economy, not at all. But the 2000s, till the crisis of 2008, Russia grew 7% each year, like on average. It was very quick growth. People felt it, and people thought that he is the one to thank for that. And I personally felt it as well. Like I remember maybe 2007. Probably or 8 was the first time I went abroad with my parents, and this was something that was completely unthought of like maybe 5 years earlier. My father got a good job, and we were like, I basically like each year I felt how we lived better and better, because like 90s there were like food problems. 2000s like I was buying like clothes in some international shops, like brands and stuff. I was going abroad, and yeah, still not like super wealthy, but there was like very significant change, and it was for many people. So like some regions they were still poor, but and in Russia people say there is Moscow and there is the rest of Russia. So yeah, Moscow did well, and some other like big cities did well. So yeah, and also what Putin did in 2003, third year, significant reforms to military or internal affairs, its police. So basically, again, increasing central control over regional police, more consolidation. Then 2003, 2004, it was the end of fight against independent media. The latest independent media, yeah, I think it was 2003 when they were eliminated. So
how did he do that?
They just they try to like buy control. Like government just was buying control in those like big media groups, and some oligarchs did it like willingly, because like oligarchs were owning them. Some did it unwillingly because Putin already had the power to persuade people, and then there was a very scandalous case of Khodorkovsky arrest and imprisonment. He was an oligarch, not a nice person, but nicer than others. He had a commodity company, I think it was I think it was gas, and it was one of the best in terms of like it was modernized. It was like proper like Western economy like, and Putin wanted to buy it from him. He did not want to sell it, and he ended up in prison. So now he's out of prison. He's kind of like one of Russian opposition abroad, has his big channel, etc. Translates like ish message, not the nicest PR person. Like he's still like from that, but he was like the best of the worst, and he got to prison. Yeah, and then 2004 is another terrorist act. There was a siege of school in Beslan, and it was an atrocious thing. Like 300 something kids were there. A lot of them died, and like the whole country saw it. And it was again this atrocious case, like terrorist attack. Putin rating dropped at that, but then by the end of that year, he found like people who were responsible were found, prosecuted, and Putin rating again went up on that because he was like kind of assuring security. And it was a very good moment for him to eliminate elections of the governors. So since then, governors were appointed. And it was shown as like anti-terrorist fight. What the relation? I don't know. But people got it. Yeah, and then 2006 is when Putin started, like 6 years, so he was elected again by then, second term. He started to fight against NGOs. That's when this law, like if you have any foreign financing, you have to declare. And a lot of Russian NGOs then had foreign financing because like Russia was a very, like, it was not already that poor, but it was still developing. There was not much money inside of the country, especially for some like long-term projects or like, I don't know, helping somebody, like, I don't know, human rights and all this stuff. Like we were still in this like figuring out how to live. A majority of people were in poverty. And then those who wanted to do something like towards development and liberalization, they had to get money from abroad, from international grants or whatever. There were a lot of European projects that those NGOs, European government projects that those NGOs just participated, won them, and got those finances. But basically, by making them declare that what made it much harder for them to work in this country. And that's probably was the first time where the freedoms were taken from people. Because he already had all the power. He had everything. He had law enforcement, he had executive, legislative, judicial, but that's when he realized that freely speaking and thinking people can be a threat for him. And so hence this was the first law. And also, that's a funny fact, like 2006, the same year, is when Federal Service for the Control of Circulation of Narcotics were established, like narcotics, drugs. So it's like a very Russia-specific thing. When they want to prosecute somebody fast, they take them for drugs. And they just put drugs into their pocket, and then they catch them. And especially if they're like young people who party, etc., in some club, it's very easy to do. And there were like so many people who got in jail that way, and those were like the activists.
Did they ever get out?
Yeah, sure, they got like some terms, but then Russian prison is a very harsh place. Not many people who go out of it want to continue being vocal after that. So
like they've learned their lesson in that setting.
Yeah.
You can't speak out.
Yeah.
This will happen.
Yeah, and many people actually stop speaking out without going to prison, just seeing other people go into prison.
Do you think Brittany Griner was set up, or do you think she was targeted because of her to teach us a lesson, or?
I don't know.
Some people, there's conspiracy theories on that. I don't know,
Yeah, like this is a good question, but my true answer, I don't know. And the problem, with those the situations like that, I do believe in judicial system. I do believe in free trial. I do believe in this like detective work, if it's done properly, if it's done transparently. And the problem with those like countries that become authoritarian is that they eliminate the possibility for that. And and then we just never know, we guess. So And then actually 2006 was also when the first political murder was. There was Anna Politkovskaya. She was a journalist who were in Chechnya, this like Kadyrov's place where like everything was allowed for him. So she was going there. She were talking about violation of human rights in general, but also like from women, for minorities. She was like vocal and writing about it, and she was killed in 2006. And she was killed. They say that she was killed by Chechens, and probably that's right because she was targeting them. But she was killed in Russia. So yeah, and it was the first of many. And then 2008 is when two terms of Putin ended. And theoretically, according to Russian constitution, there can't be more than 2 terms for the president. Hence, a new president was elected. It was Medvedev. And he was younger. He was not from KGB. He was considered a cool guy when he just came because he used an iPhone. Putin was known that he is like this old school. He does not use cell phones. He does not use internet. Everything is taken to him in folders, like I mean literal paper folders. And seems that he is still like that. Like nobody knows for sure, but there are talks that he is still like it. And then when people saw Medvedev, people thought that, okay, like we have 4 chance, we have a new president, so probably something will become more liberal. And you know, there was this feel, like 2008, I was in the university. I remember I was actually, what's it called, witnessing at election, and at least like the this electoral house or like building where
polling places.
Yeah, so where I was, it was like I haven't seen any abuse. Like that place was good. And I was inspired, like we have free, kind of free election. There is this like liberal president. Putin still remained prime minister, but we thought, okay, like prime minister, he has much less power than president in Russia, whatever. But I can say like the moment when I was standing at that electoral building and checking like everything was all right, my future husband, who lived in a student dorm back then, we studied in the same university, but we did not know each other yet. He said that at the same moment, some people, nobody knew who those people are, who were coming to the dorm and offering students money to go take the bulletins and put them in this like electoral boxes. So each one had like maybe like 100, 200 of those bulletins with the defined answer. And they were just like coming and putting them.
Like the ballots?
Yeah, the ballots.
Oh
The ballots. So like kind of voting. My husband did not do it, but other people did. And yeah, that's what was happening. And probably also like I was thinking like there were observers. So I was an observer. I did not see such thing. And I was thinking like, was it a nice place where I was? Or there were talks also that they were scheduling these moments when people came and put those bulletins, and then probably they were like closing it for a bit or like doing something with observers not to be there at the moment when they did not want them to be. Or maybe they were also like doing it after the closure, whatever. So they, yeah, it was not that free. Definitely much freer than now. And then, so Medvedev was a president for 4 years, all right? and it was strange. So people had some hope. But then 2012, another presidential election, where not Putin, somebody else, I think from State Duma, from the parliament, suggested what if Putin runs for president again? Because in our constitution we had 2 consecutive terms, and it's not consecutive anymore because like Medvedev was a president. So why would not Putin run?
That's what they're talking about here with Trump.
Yeah, very similar. For Putin, it took 12 years. It took, what, 2 months? That's why we say that Putin probably is a very bad dictator. But yeah, so, and you know, like, it started a debate, and Putin himself, he was saying, oh, like, maybe, I don't know, like it's like strange, it's gray area. He was so like shy and etc. But if you like ask me a lot, if people need me, maybe I come.
Oh.
It's like you will want me. I don't want to.
Yeah. He was
Playing
playing
coy.
this like super good. And a lot of people actually did not like Medvedev because he was not a strong man. I don't know, he did not have this image. And then also there was a lot of nuclear disarmament agreements with the US done during Medvedev's term, and many people were pissed off with that because they thought that Russia sacrificed too much, more than US did, and that it was unfair. And they blamed Medvedev for that. And then, they thought that, oh, Putin will come, he is a strong man, he won't allow for this to happen. So, but then also that's in reality why he came to power, because he was able to continue doing the same thing. Like when Medvedev was president, Putin was controlling him. Like they were like twin brothers. They were together all the time. But then what happened in 2011, the first protests started to happen. And there was the first mass protest in Russia. It still was not the scale, you know. Here researchers say 3% of population shall go on the streets for this to make the difference, to lead to a change. Mass protests of 2011 were maybe 0.1 to 0.5% of population, and probably closer to 0.1, because Russia had a lot of protests like from 2010 to 2020, especially with Navalny rise and this like opposition, etc. But still, I was checking those like the number of people who went out. It was never more than 0.5% of population, so 6 times lower than is needed. And even like the biggest protest was 2021 when Navalny was put to jail and etc. Still 0.5%. And here, for instance, there was when in the beginning of February there was a protest, right, against Trump, the first protest, and I didn't go. I didn't know about it. It was like some kind of like very sudden thing that I learned after it happened, and probably many people did the same. And I checked like the numbers, so few 100,000 around U.S. So with for the country with 300 million.
Oh yeah,
population.
that was the 50 state. That was the first one.
Yeah. So less than 0.1% of population. So cool that it happened so fast. Very small. I'm really like Miranda had this like April 5.
And that's supposed to be huge.
Yeah. So I am really hopeful for that. Like really looking forward. I want to see how many people go out. Because basically what happened in Russia and what I personally feel right now, like in 2014, we knew things are bad. Yeah, like I had some like rose hopes in like 2008, 2009, 2010. In 2014, I had no more hopes. I thought it's like going very badly, like Putin is in power again, and actually, by the way, like I told you, economy was growing 7% year on year in 2000s. 2010 to 2015, I checked 1.6% growth average. 2015, 2019 till COVID, 1.2% average. Like authoritarian government never benefits economy. Economy needs freedom. It needs market. Market needs market regulation mechanisms. Hence, like people loved Putin for 2000s, but it was not him. It was liberal reforms of 90s that he undid during 2000s, and hence there was no growth next 10 years. And and we knew all of that, and we saw that some people started to fight. So there were protests of 2011. There were less protests, but still protests in 2014 against like what was happening in Ukraine. And there was Navalny that was raising. He was trying to be run for Moscow mayor in 2013. They did not allow him, and then he tried to run for president in 2018. Obviously, they did not allow him either. But then he built this huge system of like local organizations all over the country that were very much bottoms up. Like they were able to win regional elections in big regions, in significant regions, but yeah, nothing was allowed in Moscow in federal government.
And would it still be safe to have that, even though Putin is over? You know what I mean? Like, there's still influence, right?
Yeah, it was becoming more and more dangerous to do it. And by the way, yeah, like there was something called center. We call it center air, but National Guard. Yeah, 2016 he built National Guard. Rosguardia, and there is like a center, like a specific arm within this Rosguardia. So this was established to give Putin personal protection and protect Putin from the people. So they were those who were like fighting protesters, like specific like enforcement agency against this. 2016. But before that, obviously, there were police was consolidated, very much centralized by then. So they were using police to fight against people. And at first, they were like catching someone who is most vocal. Some people got drugs in their pockets. Some people got something else that they did. I don't know. They haven't pay some taxes. And in Russia, it's much easier not to pay taxes than here because there is a lot of gray areas in Russia. Like actually, when we went to Lithuania, lived there for 1 year, I realized that I feel innocent for a change. In Russia, you don't feel innocent. There is so much gray areas. And there is also a saying in Russia that the strictness of law is offset by not obligatoriness of following it. So a lot of people do something fishy because, like for instance, for business, sometimes it's the only way to survive. The tax system is set up that it's like in many cases, in some cases it's okay, but in many cases it's like you will, if you do business, usually you have something to take you for. And yeah, like so till 2016-ish, they were still like doing this stuff, but 2016, that's when they went full scale. And it was started with some Navalny's fund detective stories where they started to target like the lowest level. 2016 was when they published a movie about Medvedev, former president, and his castles. They found, I think, 5 or 6 different properties, like a couple of billion each, in different parts of Russia. So and that's when probably they became scared, and that's when they started like targeting just catching people from the street, and that's when like it became kind of unsafe to go out because you can end up in detention like 15-30 days. 30 days was a max at first, like almost nobody got 30 days, then almost everybody got 30 days in a few years. And then, there was a constitutional change. 2019, I think, the constitution was changed, where it was so fucking stupid and so funny. Remember about these 2 consecutive terms, right, in the Russian constitution. So it was the second consecutive term of the second Putin rule, so the 4th term was ending. And he said, okay, it's unfair that we have 2 consecutive terms in the constitution, so we shall change our constitution and we shall say that 2 terms, that's it. 2 terms, no consecutive. And everybody said, okay, yeah, that's what we shall do. And then somebody, again, not Putin, somebody in the parliament says, but if we have a new constitution, then the old one does not count, and then we can have the president for another 2 terms according to the new constitution. So now, and by the way, somewhere in the middle they changed from 4 years of president to 6 years of president.
So that's what a term was, is 6?
Yeah, now it's 6. So basically Putin guaranteed the power for him till 2036 now.
How old is he?
I don't know. If he doesn't die by then, I think he comes up with
Isn't he also dating some young ice skater? I heard the conspiracy theories on that. She's some
Oh, it's not conspiracy already.
Is it true?
They found their kids. They have 2 sons. So yeah, it's not a conspiracy. She's not that young anymore, actually. She's younger than him. I remember I think she is maybe 10-15 years older than myself, so she's late 40s, I would think.
okay, so that's true then.
Yeah, that's true. That's so it was a conspiracy for a while, but that's true. And also that's so funny how those patriarchal, authoritarian white governors who talk about this conservative family norms.
Yeah, was he emboldened in 2016 when Trump came to office? Is that why things with Navalny? I mean, was he kind of emboldened because he knew he had U.S. support in a sense? The Ukraine story is very old. It happened before that. But obviously he wants to have an ally, a huge ally. Obviously that's his dream, and he was celebrating it.
He's helping it.
He's happy, sure, of course. But then with Ukraine, it was a fight for Russian dominance, and actually, Ukrainian story, that is something that I want to tell you in short as well. Putin was fighting for Ukrainian dominance, dominance in Ukraine, because it's one of the biggest, I think it's the biggest country from the former Soviet Union. It was 40-something million before the war. Now it's 25, I think, because a lot of people left. And he wanted to have appointed government there. And 2004, I think 2004 was when pro-Russian president won in Ukraine, Yanukovych.
And Putin was so nice about Ukraine all the time then. He was saying that, oh, like I'm not Ukrainian, I don't have Ukrainian roots, but I would love to have Ukrainian roots. I love to be Ukrainian. You're so nice country, blah, blah, blah. Then Ukraine started to fight Yanukovych, and then they had this protest, right? 2013, 2014 is when they had this Euromaidan. And I was checking the numbers yesterday as well. So 40 million population, at one point up to 800,000 were in Kiev on one square. 800,000 people in one city. And then there were like more than 1 million all over the country, maybe 1.5 million. And that's the scale. So that's this like 3% of population that you need to make the change, and they made this change. And police was against protesters at first because there was pro-Russian government, but then police at some point aligned with the protesters just because there were so many of them, and because
if you can't beat them, join them.
Something like that. But also I thought that some of policemen, they do their jobs, right? They do what they're said to do, but at some point it becomes to personal feelings. When they see so many unarmed people on the streets, they start to question, am I doing the right thing by following the order, right?
Yep.
And then the parliament also aligned with protesters, and yeah, they had very strong representatives in the parliament, that's true, and they were fighting that time. And then basically Yanukovych flee, and then Yushchenko, I think that time, was elected Ukraine president. And that's when Putin went and just took Crimea. So it was his message to Ukraine that decided to go a different way from him. And then he started this war in Donetsk, Lugansk, that was basically not full-scale invasion, but ongoing warfare starting 2014, and it never stopped. So it was happening till 2022 when the full invasion happened. And yeah, and this is the story of Ukraine because, yeah, they had enough people on the streets to fight. But yeah, talking about Trump, like, was Trump or was not, like, what helped Putin to decide on full-scale invasion? I don't know. He definitely gave him additional reasons, and that even like a big country like US can align with non-democratic path at some point. Yeah, I don't know what is his head. I think like maybe he would go there regardless. Maybe there was something that gave him like strength to do this decision, because I remember myself before the war in Ukraine started. I know in the US there were a lot of talks for weeks before the war that there will be war. Like there was a lot of that in media, and we and I was listening to war analysts that were saying there can't be war because Putin doesn't have enough troops. They are not, there was no active conflict. There was conflict in Syria, but then it's like a very small portion of those troops who were in conflict. He doesn't have strong economy to support it. He doesn't have this, he doesn't have that. It can't happen. And yeah, and basically I remember like we were talking to my husband, like we were saying like, no, it's not happening. He's bluffing, he's like showing power, he wants to get some sanctions out, etc. But like we were considering him, he's like a very scared person. He literally lives in a bunker. He built a whole system for his personal protection. And yeah, like people ask why somebody don't kill Putin. It's almost impossible to kill Putin because
Why? Can't get close enough.
Yes. He spent like it's like the.
Has there been attempts? Do you know?
No, and I think by the moment somebody would love to attempt it, there was already enough security around him.
And there would be a leak, and someone would share the information even if there wasn't one.
Yeah, and a lot of those people are very scared because it's like constant surveillance over like each other. So yeah, like it's a lot of money, a lot of people, and a lot of fear around it. And then we thought that he is scared. He's not that person that will go and invade other country. He just wants money and sanctions out, and he wants to do something about his ratings that were going down because there were 10 years of no economic growth, and people were in misery. But he did, and it was a shock. Yeah. I don't know what motivated.
Has it actually helped him on the country at all? Like, has it? I mean, besides potentially getting this country, which is not working, and getting these minerals, has it helped him in any way, shape, or form except look like some tough guy?
Well, he's getting very wealthy.
He wants the Soviet Union back, though, right? Isn't that his dream? Or
I don't think so. I think what he is building, Soviet Union was a lot about ideology, right? He is about power and money. He wants an empire. I think he wants like back to feudalism or like whatever, like Middle Ages, like to be. Not Middle Ages. It's new times when like the Age of Empires, basically. That's what he wants. But then, if it benefited him or not. That's a very interesting question because obviously if it went as he wished it to go, like Kiev in 3 days, like obviously, like because I think another reason why he did it because Crimea went very well for him. Like Crimea was taken with almost no blood very quickly, and his ratings went up a lot. And I remember this is something that terrified me personally when I saw, like, we just graduated from the university. We were still like having like this big parties, like a lot of friends, blah blah blah. And when people who like studied with me started to say like it was like Crimea is ours, like Crimea is ours, and so excited, I was terrified. Like I wanted to be out of this country like immediately. Like I was scared, but a lot of people were really like encouraged by that. In terms of like these were, there obviously are people who are very actively pro-war. Different statistics, no transparent statistics in Russia, but they say that like maybe 10% who are like really this like patriots, like wanting to kill each single Ukrainian and stuff.
It seems like he was biding his time until, hilariously, biding his time until Trump got back in power to now have a favorable ally to do whatever he freaking wants. So then Trump can do whatever he wants in Greenland, Canada,
that's
Gaza.
so scary.
Oh God, it's like you're like we studied this in school. This can't happen again, and it's happening.
Why are we going back to imperialism? That's so like Middle Ages and.
Yeah,
that's all they
Middle
know.
Ages,
that's all they know. External power.
Do you think there could be peace in Ukraine, or do you think it's impossible? Do you think it'll end, or?
I think they are very far from it. I think, like, I do believe one day there will be peace in Ukraine, like, but yeah, they are so fucking far from it. And the conditions that Putin says are not, they are the end of Ukraine. If they agree on Putin's condition, there will be no Ukraine because like his condition is elimination of their army almost completely, no support from abroad, no allied troops in Ukraine, and then it gives Putin time to prepare, and then he will invade Ukraine that is much less strong than it was in 2022. But Trump, obviously he was looking for Trump because Trump is kind of his last hope. But another thing that happened in Russia, one thing, like a war was a good excuse for him to do even more oppression against his own population. So all the opposition is either in jail or abroad. There is no way for opposition to be in Russia now. And then
so you don't have a lot of protests going on in Russia because
zero. Yeah,
they're scared.
They're scared. Yeah, the only protest is kind of silent protest when people draw graffiti or like write something. They started to get school kids in prison for anti-war messages. Like just a kid wrote "No war" on the school wall and got 5, 6, 7 years in prison. 15, 16-year-old kids are in prison. And it's scary. And then what they also started after the war is, and it's like, it gives me chills, they started proper propaganda machine in schools and kindergartens. Like war veterans, people who killed innocent people, a lot of them actually were in jail because they were mobilizing people from jails. They were like offering them release from jail for going to war. And then those people come to schools and teaching kids what? I don't know what they teach. Like sometimes they just like sing some patriarchal songs with them. And this chilling, like early age kids, proper war propaganda. Nothing like that existed in Soviet Union. There was this like ideology about like Soviet future, communism, blah blah blah, but there wasn't like kids were never taught violence at schools or kindergartens, and that's what they started to do. So, and I'm scared like war will end, Putin will be no more, but those kids will grow up. And this is a huge generation of
where these seeds have been planted.
Yes, yes, and yeah. But then again, like about what Putin gained from the war. Very funny story. Like here in the U.S., remember, like Biden's reform, halting inflation, right? But not better than Europe, but not enough for people to feel safe, right, and stuff. Like if you look at economic indicators here, they're good, and there is a lot of analytics on that, etc. But internal feeling of people is that everything is very bad because they expect stability. U.S. is the biggest economy in the world. People expect that everything will be smoothly here and quick. In Russia, after the invasion happened, people expected the economy to collapse, like first year. They expected that Putin will take all the money to the war and there will be no money left to the economy. But Russia is still a huge country. It's like 11th, I think, economy, last time I checked. I haven't checked now, I probably checked a few years ago, I don't know now, but it was huge, right? It's very much resource dependent, oil dependent, etc. It's like bad economy, but it's still huge, and it doesn't collapse in 1 year. It doesn't collapse in 3 years, as we see. It is becoming worse and worse. Pensions are not indexed with inflation. A lot of government cuts are happening, like healthcare, education, everything. But people expected to die. People expected that there will be no food in the shops. People expected that, yeah, that will be the end of everything. And it's not. They still go to the shops. They still, like, I don't know, cafes are open in Moscow. And
Moscow's a beautiful city. Like, you would think, like, it's a dictatorships make their main city look beautiful, so you don't, like, it distracts you from what's going on everywhere.
100%. And it was like, it became I was not living there like for 10 years already. Last time we came was 2021, before we moved to the US. We came to visit, and the center of Moscow, it was so fucking beautiful. Like they were making this like a postcard for tourists. So actually that's funny, because here in the US you come to the city centers of the big liberal cities
burned out,
and you see like the dirt and stuff.
Down.
That's 80 years of war. That's all the children of war, right? And that's anyway.
Yeah,
Sad.
but in Russia it's vice versa. You go to the suburbs and it's like shithole, but you go to the city center and it's beautiful, like a lot of cool places. And nobody who is in Russia can afford, like some people in Moscow can afford, but like those who come from abroad is because like local currency is so cheap. Like everything is cheap, affordable, beautiful. Like what else do you want?
It's a facade.
Yeah, they're very much facade. And basically what Putin gained is this population that is extremely relieved that they are still alive and have something to eat on their tables.
Yeah.
So, and hence his ratings are still not 30% that was before he gained his power. They're still like 70-ish. Sometimes they go down, sometimes they go up. But also like the more time goes, the less you believe those ratings because we know how they are collected. But
Well,
there
and
are some like
Trump,
indicators.
his ratings aren't as high as Putin's.
Hmm?
Trump's ratings aren't
Oh,
as
yeah.
high.
Yeah.
And yet,
If you believe it, I think.
well, there's a
Fox
lot of
News lies,
propaganda
yeah.
around it too.
Yeah.
You know, they want you to believe his ratings are high.
Mm-hmm.
My dad went to St. Petersburg, and I think it was before the Ukraine war, and he said that city is so beautiful, but the outskirts around it, it's the most poverty he's ever seen. He said the difference with the poverty in Russia to inside the city, he said it was just awful. Like,
It's a gap, yeah, a huge gap. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
and like the old, like the buildings are all like, you know, the brown apart. It's just like
Soviet, yeah, that's the beauty. Like, and we lived in Lithuania, right, for 7 years, which is former USSR, but now Europe. And you can very easily see there is a very nice European downtown and old town, city center and stuff. Then there is this like a circle of Soviet suburbs that are just like awful.
Architecture.
Yeah, and then there are like these newer neighborhoods that were built after the Soviet Union that are also nice and European, and it's like and it's all of this like former Soviet cities like that.
So, does anybody have questions that?
yeah, so many that you need to have another presentation because I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of questions, but
Yeah.
I'm wondering, based on your experience in Russia, outside of Russia, etc., like seeing what's happening here in the U.S.
I'm
What
scared.
What would you say about? I mean, you talked about getting to that, magic 3% of the population protesting to make real change. I mean, what do you have insights for us in the situation we are in right now in the U.S.?
I think I believe in 3% number, and I don't know what else to believe right now because it feels that the government represents people, right? Like there are like Democrats in the Senate, in the House of Parliament. They are not in the majority, but there are enough of them, right? So they can block, for instance, stuff. But then. Like I recently was listening to one politologist, and she was saying that for some reason people expect from politicians to do the change, right, and to lead them. But in reality, politicians are by definition somebody who represent us. So if like they can have like progressive ideas and stuff. But if there is a lack of bottoms down support for them and enough people whose idea they represent, they won't represent them. So I do feel that if there are more people in the streets, like they will feel more support, right, and to feel strong, right? Because they will feel that it's not them against Trump, it's a lot of people behind them, because it may become personally dangerous for them.
I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned that there's already enough leaning in on threats from this administration that our representatives are backing down.
Yeah.
I think that's already happening.
If that law firm backed down,
Right.
then I mean,
Well,
we're
they
gonna
were
need 10 million people.
they
at
were
least.
they
Like
were
30 million
threatened.
in
They
the
were
streets.
threatened,
Yeah.
and the one woman left. She ended up resigning because she's like, I'm not going to be with a law firm that's not going to fight against this.
Good for
So
her.
I heard things are gonna get a lot worse before they get better, from what I'm hearing, and it will get better, but it's up to the people if you want it to get better. And there's gonna, I think at some point there will be millions in the street, because I've never seen things get, I've lived here my whole life, and have you ever seen anything get this bad this quickly?
No.
It's, I mean, it's
when he was
definitely
elected last
it's
time.
protests for sure, and then of course the next election.
Yeah, yeah,
we
it
have
is.
to route people out. And,
Well, they're already trying to
and-
buy it. He passed that executive order today that you have to have your passport to vote.
Yeah, right.
What?
Yeah, you didn't hear that?
No.
Yeah, he's trying to make it harder to
Make it
show
harder to vote.
citizenship.
You didn't hear that? He's signed executive order today saying that you have to prove, not an ID, you have to prove citizenship, which is going to disfranchise 10% of this country.
You mean like people who live here without passports, like citizens?
You have to
without-
prove that you're a citizen, not an ID.
Okay.
Republicans were vouching for ID. They want you to prove your citizenship.
Yeah.
They passed it?
Well,
It's
it's,
an
It's an
order.
executive
Just
order.
like all
But it
of
might
them.
get challenged.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be challenged.
Like Louisiana and Georgia and Alabama, like 30% of the people are on Medicaid. You know, and
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was surprised. Yeah, like about Medicaid, I was checking. Like, yeah, supposedly U.S. has no universal Medicare, but then I was like checking statistics of how many people don't have any insurance, and it was some kind of low number, around 10%. And I was thinking like, why? What? There, like people say that there is no universal health care, and then yeah, like 150 million are on Medicaid.
yeah,
It's like-
quite a lot on Medicaid. And, you know.
Mhm.
A big
Yeah.
switch though is focusing on what you do want and not so much about what you don't want. You have to like stay focused on what you're trying to create. Yes, you got to fight these battles along the way. You got to choose them wisely, but you can't get caught up in all the look over here. You got to like, and I think the warning here is this is real. This can happen. It happened in Russia. Yes, they were only 10 years out. I always come back to, in traveling through the South and the civil rights movement and seeing the change. This was like, 100 to 200 years of one way, and all of a sudden we got civil rights accomplished. I think most of us were, born around that time or after that time. I was born in 70. And I think that drawing on that success of bringing people together, uniting people in a common vision, will be what will win the day, because those things based in external power will always fall. Those things based on authentic power, right, love, peace, those things will carry on. And so if we focus more about what we want to get and not get caught up in, the fight or flight all the time, survival mode, but to really look at what is possible together when we unite and we get 10 million people out
in the
which
street
sounds
is what
like
we
in
need.
the streets, right? And then clean house at the next election time, so he
Yes.
doesn't have all this power that he's got consolidated. And then, of course, get them. Oh, fuck Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying buying all these tech companies to control our elections, to control me. That's what I'm saying. That scares me even more.
He'll be his own undoing.
Yeah.
I know if you want.
I love
Was that the last? He's not listening.
Well, Natasha, from your experience
We'll
in
see how
Russia,
against Trump.
and as you see these things, coming, what did Russians do? What did your community do? How did they band together in community and
Nothing.
Yeah.
That was the problem. Russians, like, it's a very interesting thing about Russians. Like, theoretically, we are supposed to be very united because, like, there was this idea of friendship, brotherhood, and stuff, like, during Soviet Union. but it was so fake that people are, in reality, people are much more devoted to their community here than in Russia, especially like in big cities. Like I don't know how it's called, works in villages, probably they know each other. But in cities, like you don't know who your neighbor is, and you have your friends, but
So was there any trust, like you, or was there a lot of mistrust within your community? Like, you know, I know you, but I don't know you, and I don't feel comfortable talking to you about these things openly because of what the impact may be.
I think people are not they were not afraid to talk back then.
Yeah.
They are definitely afraid now.
Yeah.
But then older generation, they were afraid because they were remembering like Soviet times. Because like for instance, my granny, like her dad was killed by communists, like basically capital punishment, and she, like it was 2000s, I talked to her, and she was afraid to say something bad about Stalin. Like Stalin was dead for 15 years already. She was still afraid.
Sure.
Yeah. So there was this in older generation, not in younger generation. But then it's like I think a lot of people were apolitical. In general, like they did not care. They cared about their own stuff, right? Especially like given this like times of significant economic growth, a lot of people came like from almost poverty to like normal lifestyle, and they were just enjoying it.
Yeah.
Like you can go to a cafe, you can go travel, whatever.
So they were kind of taking it for granted, or
yeah. And like, and there is no history of like, for instance, here in the U.S. there were like a lot of years of stability, but there is this history of protest, history of people fighting for their rights, protecting, and I think there is a lot of personal responsibility that people are taught here. There is none in Russia, like especially like Soviet Union, everything is guaranteed, like government knows the way for you, like you don't choose anything, you just live and enjoy whatever and work for the benefit of the government. I think like like we talked politics a bit in the university, because it was kind of free time, and we had those subjects, right? And then I got to observe election because I got like into this group where it was kind of cool and stuff. I don't think that I do cared about democracy, but I kind of thought that we are going that way. Like, so I'm just like partying with cool people and observing elections.
I'm kind of concerned about our younger generations, and I have a 17-year-old, and they, you know, I'm worried, like, do you realize what's happening? But don't panic, but do you realize, you know, you don't want to scare them.
Yeah.
But I don't think they have a good, you know, they're in their phones, and they're not present with what's going on, and they're our future, right? So I think the younger generations are important, and getting, you know, I don't necessarily want my 17-year-old out there if it's dangerous, right? Nobody does, but she'll be joining me. But yeah, I just don't think the gravity of the situation, I don't think they have a
Let's
good
have the
understanding.
kids here. Bring the kids in.
Yeah,
Let's bring them to the conversation.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's by the way true. Like bringing them to conversation. Like Navalny really did awesome job including this younger population, and they are usually like people my age or younger. Majority of them were younger. And yeah, like we left in 14, so we left before it all like became massive. But he basically made it cool for young people to be interested in politics, because he was on social media, he was on YouTube, It was like kind of free media because like everything on TV, like TV was for like old people
Yeah.
who listened to Putin, but then YouTube and Navalny and they were really cool, and his team, they were all young people, again like my age or younger, so they were coming to work for him like right after school, so a lot of people they were like studying somewhere and volunteering and then coming to work for Navalny. So yeah, it was like a huge part of this generation, which is now maybe like I don't know, 22 to 30, who are very much political, and he basically raised them because he was everywhere for like over 10 years. At first he was like writing in this life journal, then he was on YouTube, so he was going in, then he was on TikTok, he was going on all this social media where like young people were, but it was a lot of work that he did.
And now in Russia, like, is there free access? I mean, is access to the internet and all that comes in from the internet open and you can view that, or is there these blocks?
So they try to block it. Like for instance, Instagram is blocked.
Okay, I was wondering.
Facebook?
No, Facebook is not
So
yet.
we've got a couple leaving. Do you want to share anything about what your hopes are for this group, or that we'll just follow up, I guess, by internet?
Yeah. No, yeah, I was like, it was very, very nice to see
Thank
you
you
and
so much.
speak to you today. Like, I am really excited. And I think the message, I don't know, we don't have much time, I think. This is the message. Because the longer it takes, the harder it is to fight. Because, like, those dictators, they have their playbook. Actually, there is a cool series on Netflix. I do recommend to everyone. It's called How to Become a Tyrant. 5 series. They explain exactly what you need to do to become a tyrant. And I think Trump watched it. So
I think that's where he gets along.
Okay. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you so much.
I think the Black Panthers had some really great ideas of feeding people, because like a lot of people are hungry and they're not going to come out just because blah 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 we want to talk about stuff, right? Because they don't have time for this, they have 3 jobs.
Right.
But if we feed them, you know, that brings them out, you know, especially if it's
And then
got food they
conversation
like.
happens.
And then yes, and then you get community, and then you get.
I also think if you meet people where you are, I've been talking to some people in the gaming industry about trying to create like a fantasy league for politics, because so many people like fantasy football, fantasy baseball, they know all the stats. Why can't we have who's voting on what?
Yeah.
What, who would be your fantasy politic team? And, and you can't just pick anybody, like you can't have a team that's all Democrats or all Republicans. You have to have 2 people from every region, and you have to have, whatever it is.
And that's a cool way to meet those younger generations.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, because they're already on their phones.
Yeah.
Why not gamify it?
Yeah, that's totally a good
And it would
idea.
also, like, in the fantasy leagues, they also have, like, all sorts of, like, advertisements and stuff like that. So then you would get people in politics trying to advertise, or you'd have people, saying, this is what this person's saying, like,
or Act Blue or whatever.
Whatever it is,
Yeah.
But so far I haven't. I wish
It's a
I
good
had
concept.
I wish I had a technical background.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either, so I don't feel bad.
Yeah.
That's
no,
a great idea,
that's true. I think like meeting people somewhere where they feel pain when they're hurt, or where like they are open for conversation. And I heard this message a lot today, like from different people. For instance, from this lady that did the HIV studies, that, yeah, like, for instance, Russian opposition, like Navalny's foundation and his supporters, there were videos of like how to talk to people who are brainwashed by propaganda, right? And they were showing this like next step approach, right? Look for people who are already having an issue. and talk to them about their particular issue. And when they agree with you on that particular issue, that's where you can do the next step and talk maybe about something else with them and see how they react. If they like completely disagree, then probably you don't have to waste time on them.
Yeah.
If they start to listen to you, maybe this is the next step. And don't target like to basically persuade somebody in a day or something or in one talk. It's just like one step.
Yeah.
And probably that's what they did during like this 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah,
But it
because no
was
one's
too
going to listen
slow
if you
to
just are,
feel-
you go this way. No one's going to go, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'll come aboard. Even though you're angry and you think you feel justified, you can't. That's not the right approach.
Mr. Trump exemplifies it.
Mm.
Unfortunately,
Yes. Yeah.
he
How do you
exemplifies
think
its
you can attract your
effect.
kids to
Yeah.
Sunday?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it. I don't know. I don't know that too.
Oh, hi.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, sorry.
Two daughters, awesome
But
daughters.
yeah, and when we went to the Indivisible meeting on Sunday, that's the first thing that struck me. I'm like, oh my God, where is the use?
Yeah.
And my daughter right now, like yours, she's like, she listens to me. We talk about things, but it doesn't. Yeah, I think
She's like,
until
Mom,
it
you're
hits
just-
them
Yeah.
directly,
Yes.
they will react. For example, like gun violence, it targets them directly.
Yeah.
So mine have been very involved with this because they're scared when they go to school. So it's
Right.
easy for me to bring them to demonstration when it regards gun violence. But then I'm like, how do I make her come? And I also have the tendency to bombard her with a lot of, things I hear. I was like, you should be aware of this is
Yeah.
happening.
I do that
So
with Liliana
they're
too.
just overloaded with, like climate change, this and this, and they're like, so of course they want to be on their phone and be
Yeah.
with their friends because they're like, we're already overloaded. But
Yeah.
we need them.
And I think
in
my
this
daughter,
fight.
maybe yours too, is just like, oh Mom, you're just going overboard. You're
Yeah,
going too
or-
far with it. Or
Right now, she's concerned about her grades. Because
Yeah,
she wants
yeah.
to go to college.
Right, right.
In 2 years. So, it's just like, so.
Do you all have my number? Let's
Thanks
think
everyone
of
for
how to
coming.
solve these things. Yeah.
Thanks
I
for
really-
being here.
Yeah, I really loved the conversation actually.